Thank you for listening to the BjjBrick podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. Episode 97 of the BjjBrick podcast. We're only a few short episodes. I think that'd be 4 away from episode 100, which is going to be a landmark for us. Byron's laughing, so I must have did some bad arithmetic there, which I'm known for. But hey, Byron, how are you doing today?
Gary, I'm doing great. I'm excited. The second half of this interview is coming up, and I know there's a lot of good stuff in there. We're fortunate to have some listeners submit some great questions, and some of Sam Spiegelman's audience. You know, he writes a lot of articles. They wrote him some questions as well, so he gets down to a lot of good things, and I was curious about myself. So a lot of fun, and we got another episode just like the last one, you know, basically.
Yep, so definitely listen to the whole episode. You're going to learn a lot here today, especially in Sam Spiegelman's question and answer section.
Absolutely. Just to let the fans know that this is, we're having a bit of a scheduling thing going on with our schedules. So Gary and I have recorded like 3 episodes in a row back-to-back here. In a row back-to-back, that's necessary for me to say.
So if we sound tired, you'll totally understand why. You know, recording these podcasts is very exhausting. But we are in good shape. You know why?
Why is that?
Because we listened to part 1 last week of Sam Spiegelman on how to get in better shape. You know, it's question and answer. So definitely it'll help you out.
There we go. That's good math. And if they can figure out that we've been doing back-to-back episodes, it'll be a little difficult for us to have listened to it in this.
We are also time travelers. So.
Gonna go back in time.
Yes. If you want to support the show, check out Byron's audiobook. Byron has an audiobook. It's basically called Your First Year in BJJ. It's $11.99. We'll put a link to it on the show notes so you can check it out. But it basically kind of guides you through that first year, kind of helping you, through all the pitfalls and, the elations and everything you're going to have in that first year. It's going to make that first year much easier, which is going to set you up on a great path, a great journey to just keep training through the rest of your life, hopefully.
Absolutely. We do appreciate the support we get with that. It's just a way that you could help us out, and hopefully we can help you out with the extended podcast about your first year in Jiu-Jitsu. That's cool. We appreciate anytime we get a sale on those. Another way that you could connect with the BjjBrick podcast is to get on our email list. Go to bjjbrick@gmail.com. No, that's our email address. Go to our website or our Facebook page, and there's a little area there. You can put your name and email address, and we'll send you out an email every time the new show comes out. Actually, the day after the new show comes out, and you could you get the show notes and get a link to the actual show all in your inbox at your convenience, my friends. So.
And the cool thing about if you do sign up for that, you do get a couple little audio clips, audio books. There are some smaller ones, and like I know I mentioned, my favorite is how to compete in a BJJ tournament, even if you were on a busy schedule. That's my favorite, but there's other ones in there that Byron has done, so definitely check them out.
And I do have some off-topic stuff in there. I have one that's about my passion for eating curry. I gave a little speech in front of a small audience about the joys of eating Thai curry, and that's in there. And also have one that I gave on a career day about being a firefighter. So if you're interested in firefighting, I talked for about 45 minutes to a group of high school kids about becoming a firefighter.
And, Byron talks about how he's got one there for curry. I'm actually getting one ready to talk about my favorite basketball player, Stephen Curry. So I kind of copy off Byron, but it's not the Curry you eat, it's Stephen Curry. So be on the lookout for that one.
The fans of the podcast know that Ari is making an audiobook, and we always talk about the audiobook at the end of the show, but I guarantee you that it's not going to be about Stephen Curry, because I don't know who that is. And I always
Stephen Curry is my favorite basketball player. The guy is incredible. He is like a red belt in basketball.
He's good at shooting hoops?
Yep, he's good at hooping.
So I learned something about him, and I imagine he enjoys a good Penang curry or maybe a green curry like I do. So Right on. I'm learning stuff every day. You got to keep expanding your mind, my friends. Gary has the quote of the week. Gary's presenting this thing, so here we go. I'm excited for this. Gary said he has a quote for us.
You know, I can't take credit for this quote, but I've heard this numerous times, and it's short and sweet, but drillers make killers. And I love it. It's basically just saying you have to work on your game. You have to drill. You can't just show up for open mat, train, tap people out, get tapped out, go to the gym, lift some weights, come back from open mat. You're going to get better doing that, but you have to drill. You have to train with a purpose. You have to work on your moves, put the time in. And if we want to get better, that's what you've got to do. You've got to drill. And if you drill, if you become a driller, you'll become a killer.
There you go. And he's not advocating that you're mentally unstable if you drill. I mean, that's a killer to me. But he's someone who's good at jiu-jitsu, someone who's a killer on the mats. I think this is a good time. You know, you mentioned this quote to rehash what BjjBrick actually means and why we started that term, I guess. A BjjBrick is a technique that you're very good at. And it's almost, you know, like an advantage to you to have a couple of bricks in your arsenal that you could use as weapons, whether it be a guillotine or a kimura or a certain sweep or a takedown. Your opponent largely is unaware of your brick in most situations, and it's really going to, if you make a brick, you've got to drill those things and make them happen. But it's a tremendous advantage to have a game plan and to have some of those bricks show up in your game plan and be able to use. You know, if you think about some people who have bricks, you know, like Bernardo Faria, his deep half is like a brick. You know, the way he passes his guard is like a brick. You know how Bernardo's going to pass your guard, and there's nothing you're going to do to stop him from using that brick against you. It's just
when you're going against somebody who's got a brick and they throw that brick out, it's almost like your teeth getting smashed in. I mean, it's unstoppable.
So maybe the bricks are also making killers. That's pretty. We're getting pretty graphic here on our fun little podcast.
This one is going to be censored.
Some of them, some of the podcasts are labeled explicit because of the guest might drop some bombs on us, but we just take it into a route of violence sometimes, Gary.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's always me who's taking it over the edge, so I apologize.
It's always fun, Gary, and I'm sure our audience is up for the analogy of a brick as a weapon, and just I guarantee you know somebody who's got bricks in their game. If you don't have any yet, you know when you're going to roll with them that they're going to get you into triangle choke. Yeah. You know they're going to take your back.
Yeah, the cool thing about having a brick, it's concealed. We don't need a concealed carry permit. It is already concealed, and there's no permit needed. We have it. Everybody can't see it till they get on the mat with you. Then you're in trouble. Absolutely.
Especially at if you're at the elite level of jiu-jitsu, people know your game. But at the lower levels, you're going to surprise people with what you're going to do, and that's a huge advantage. You can't surprise your teammates, and they know they know the brick's coming, and it still works. That's incredible. Just think about that, Gary.
Yeah. Yep. That is totally
true. That was our friend Gary Hull with Drillers Make Killers. So you can go back and listen to an episode with Gary. He's basically on all of them, but maybe one or two. I'll put a link to all of Gary's episodes on the show notes. No, I won't.
So wait, what's this? You've made 2 episodes without me?
I remember I made one because I said, "Hey Gary, how's it going?" And then I played like a little sound of crickets, and I was like, "Oh damn it, Gary!"
See, though, I was on it. I made cricket noises.
But that episode went incredibly fast as far as the.
It was probably the most listened to episode too.
I don't remember what episode it was, but it was a while back. Gary's been he's been like a brick house. You know, he's here. He's going to be here. You know, and standing in the schedule wise. You know, like he's consistent. You know.
Yeah, I'm consistent.
That's why we're doing 3 episodes.
Most people tell about me when I'm on the mat. They always say, "Man, he's consistent," and then you hear him like put their head down a little and turn to the side and say, "Consistently bad." But hey, I don't care. I'm always going to be there.
If it's time to roll, Gary's going to show up and train and drill.
Because I want to be a killer.
Yep. I know Gary trains all his guys. He has them drill kimuras, and he's got guys with like a year of experience, and their kimuras are way better than mine. So they've got good kimuras because Gary's having them drill their Kimuras. That's just an example about something that I've neglected, and it's it doesn't really bother me that my Kimura's not that great. I got other things, but
you've got other bricks. Everybody has, some moves work better for other people.
But to all your guys, the way you guys train it over there,
well, it's because we train what I want to train. I'm a little selfish.
It works well though. So, but that was our quote from our friend Gary Hall. We've got an article. Gary, what's our article?
This week our article is from the website girl/jiu-jitsu.com. It's titled, "What Happened When My Son Got Beat by a Girl." It's by Claudette, and sorry I can't find her last name here, but it's definitely by Claudette. So we've got a great article, and I think you see it happen at any tournament, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, guys and girls in the same bracket. If you're a guy, you're gonna end up going against a girl, and you're gonna get beat, and you need to know how to handle it. Yeah, it says at the beginning of the article, her son won 11 of his last 14 matches. He's good. He's not going out there and used to losing. He's lost before, obviously, but when he steps on that, he expects to win. So he stepped on the mat against a girl. She beat him. It also mentions in the article that at that age, strength is largely, the difference between the sexes is largely irrelevant. They're just kids. So that's something to take into effect. But really, this article gets into the meat of it. What happens after the match? Yeah, and that's the big time. And it goes into 5 different points. But the first one is, encourage your son to train with more of the girls at the school, especially the ones who are better than he is. He needs to lose. He needs to feel what it's like to lose. So he'll realize that it's no big deal. Girls are just as good as guys. It's going to happen. And the more he's going to get tapped out going against the better girls at school, the more he's going to just realize it's normal. Yeah, and they also are trying to explain to him that in some situations, some sports, some school subjects, life situations, girls are better. Or maybe more, some girls are better than some of the guys, or some of the guys are, it really doesn't matter. Number 3, Claudette told his son, to treat everyone as equal. Notice how she didn't say treat women as equal. We're all the same. I mean, you get down there, they're mad. Anybody can beat anybody. You make a mistake, somebody does a great move, and you don't even have to make a mistake. Somebody sets you up perfectly, you're going to get tapped out. It just happens. We're all equal. Yeah, that's an important lesson to teach the kids, to treat everyone as equals. And it's imagine as a kid learning that on the mat early on, and how that will help you throughout the rest of your life. If you learned as a young boy that girls could tap you out, and outsmart you and out do whatever, you probably have a more intelligent road, through the rest of grade school or wherever you learn this lesson at, and be able to make more friends and to appreciate your journey a little better. Yeah, that's a great point, Byron. I really, really, very insightful. Another thing that they're doing is that her and her husband train together, and sometimes it's okay if she taps out the husband. I mean, and the boy will see that, and he knows it's not a big deal. It's not, the dad doesn't get upset and cry about it. It's just part of training, and you get tapped sometimes, and sometimes you roll with women, sometimes they tap you. Not a big deal. Yeah, it's going to happen. And 5, Claudette encourages his son to support and cheer on his female teammates and encourage them like he does his male teammates. And that just goes back to number 3. Everyone's equal. No difference. Male, female, we're all teammates, and we can beat one another, and we're always going to cheer for one another, and we're always going to be there for one another. Yeah, and I could see that being, you shouldn't have to be told to encourage your teammates, but as a little boy, you're kind of... Little boys are different, some are shy, and some will go up and tackle the girl they like or whatever. Boys show it in different ways. But I can see a boy not wanting to associate himself with the little girls in the class. But she's saying, "Hey, you need to go cheer these girls on. This is important. They're your teammates. We're a team. Go out there and show them the support." And that's going to pay dividends in his, what's going on in his head as well. Yeah. And one thing I noticed too, I was going through the comments, and man, there was one comment that really, I can't say I read all the comments, but one of them was, this person wrote in about their 10-year-old daughter competed against a boy, and she won. And she's like, it was a great match. We were proud of her as this boy was bigger. And then when we got home, the person's daughter said, hey, I don't want to go against that boy again. And, they were puzzled as why. And the girl said after the match ended, the boy's father dragged him under the bleachers and slapped him several times and yelled at him for losing to a girl. And, man, poor kid to have to deal with that. And also, poor girl. Now would, I could see maybe somebody not even wanting to do the sport again because they don't want to beat a boy because they don't want to see somebody getting slapped and yelled at. She's kind of in a terrible situation.
It makes me sick to hear that some kid got out there and competed. Probably, I'm picturing this piece of crap dad probably pushed the kid to compete, probably pushed the kid into jiu-jitsu, and then is mad at the kid when he loses to a girl. I guarantee you, I'm all fired up now. I guarantee you this dad doesn't train, because if this dad trains, he will have lost to somebody who is not as strong as him, not as big as he is, and he'll have felt that before. He's back there beating up his kid, getting mad at him because he lost to a girl. Screw that guy, man.
Yeah, that just tore me apart when I was reading that one, and that just makes me sick to my stomach.
I'm all fired up, man.
Sorry, I didn't mean to fire you up.
Man, I can't. I'm still wrapping my head around that some piece of crap dad back there mad at his son because he lost to a girl.
Yeah,
dude, get out of it, man.
Yep.
Your kids are out there competing to have fun and to learn a little bit about life.
That's the key.
You're mad because they lost.
Have fun. Sports are about having fun, especially when you're 10 years old. It's not like he's going for world championship. He's in the Worlds or the Pan Ams. It's about having fun, and you sure as heck ain't having fun when your dad's yelling at you and slapping you because you lost to a girl.
Yeah, you get the crap dad of the year award if I could pass it out to whoever that guy is.
Yeah, there's a black belt in crappy dads.
Oh God, man, I'm all fired up now. We gotta get off this. Okay. Nice article. It's interesting that she shared her story of her son losing and how maybe they had mishandled a little bit of his loss, and then we're gonna do some things to correct this. We maybe had some expectations of him, or he had some expectations of himself that were wrong before he started this match.
Yeah.
And so lessons learned. We're gonna move on with this. We want him to have fun with jiu-jitsu, and so very interesting article from an interesting point of view. From a mother, from a jiu-jitsu coach, from from the father's side, and how the family came together and
just the family. I just love it that they started training together, and the husband would allow the wife to win in front of the son. I just thought that's pretty cool. Just really life lessons. And,
of course, we'll put a link to this in the show notes, and it's girl-jiu-jitsu.com. But I feel for the little guy. They got his picture on there. He's kind of upset. She's got her hand raised, and I feel for the little guy being on the website.
Yeah, I don't like the picture. I felt bad for the guy, but oh well.
It's part of it. When you step on the mat, you're going to roll those dice, and sometimes they'll come up before you. But I'm sure I'm sure that kid who lost that day to that girl is still training, and the kid underneath the bleachers is done with the sport. I hope he is. I hope he's not. If that's the way it's going to be,
I hope he's not. But there's a good chance he is. Just like you said, I could see it happening.
Man, I get fired up about that pretty quick.
Yeah. Byron, let's change the subjects, or let's get the wind chimes going.
I need some wind chimes to kind of calm. Let's calm down, everybody. This was a comment. Somebody on the internet said something, and they were dumb about it, and it made me mad. How dumb is that, Kerry?
Yeah, that is dumb.
So I haven't been on the internet debate for 10 or 12 years. I mean, what's the point,
Yeah, I'm tough on the internet, not tough in person.
Yeah. So just I don't know. It is kind of funny how mad people get online, and I just did a little bit right there. But you can't mistreat.
But that's a little different, though. I mean, you're not like mad at somebody and threatening to fight somebody. You're just mad at what you saw. I mean, not what you saw, what you read. You just felt for the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, who can not feel for the kid? And man, how about the little girl who told that to her mom? That little girl is just such a good
She's
person.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cares so much about the other person, and did not want to see that happen again. That's the Person of the Year award right there.
So to keep bringing this up, I'm trying to think of what I would do if I saw that. You see that happening.
The bad thing is because your first, like I hear how fired up you are now, and your first inclination is to go over there and hit somebody, but the next thing you know, you're arrested. And,
yeah,
you can't have
no,
that
that's
happen.
not the answer to this.
Yeah, that's definitely not the answer.
I think the best thing would be, I'm trying to just think. Yeah, pull guard and heel hook, of course, Gary.
Well, but, only if it's a clown.
Maybe we'll let the dad cool down a little bit and say, hey, man, I noticed you. This might get you your butt kicked or it might be bad. But you just might say, hey, man, I saw your son out there. He tried hard and I thought he did a good job and that girl's tough. And he'll say, he might complain about his son or something like that. And let him say that and say, hey, this is just a sport kids do for fun. And hopefully he'll learn that. But if I don't know, maybe encourage him to try it because I guarantee that dad's not training.
Yeah.
But that's not a way to encourage any kid to do better at anything. To be mad at them because they failed. Yeah. Okay. Like for night time, let's move on. This is going into an epic rant by me. I don't think I've had one of those in a long time. But anyway, great article. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. We haven't read all the comments, but Gary managed to find. You always find the craziest comments, Gary. I don't know how you do it. You got like a magnet for that. But Gary, I think the best way to do this will be just to kick off the interview or the second half of our question and answer with Sam Spiegelman. Remember, as he's answering these, if you want personal advice, he does do some consulting online. Check out BjjBrick.com and Sam's notes specifically for contact information to get a hold of him, and he'll be happy to help you out.
Yeah, so let's roll part 2.
He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
He once grappled a polar bear to test out his bear hug. He once choked out an opponent using only his Wi-Fi connection. When he models for gi companies, he uses only his bad side. He only gets ringworm on his ring finger.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick podcast. Stay listening, my friends.
Going to the next question. What supplements do you recommend?
And you can find all kinds of stuff now. It's pretty amazing. The supplement industry is very large. I stick to the basics. I think for supplements should serve two purposes. Like, I have a dual purpose. They should, help your performance. They should also do something good for your health, so you get more bang for your buck, so to speak. Pretty simple. If you look at, there's a ton of research on good old-fashioned creatine monohydrate. It's probably one of the, first supplements to really become popular, but it's also one of the most studied supplements. Not only does it affect your performance, they say it's really, it's good for your brain. They're saying it's got a lot of other benefits that we might not even have thought about besides performance. So I like things like that, fish oil, probiotics, something that doesn't, it's not necessarily you're going to take and have super big gains in the gym, but it'll make you healthier. When you're healthier, you feel better. When you feel better, you train harder. And it just kind of carries on down the line. You can get into various specific stuff depending on the person's, competitor or not. And if that's the case, like, you can really tailor your supplement plan. You can start getting more specific stuff like, branched chain aminos or like intra-workout carbs if they're training a lot. But for the most people, they can get away with just, eating good food. And, I think creatine is something that a lot of people can benefit from, and fish oil for the brain and the inflammation purpose, and probiotics because everybody could use good digestion.
Okay, sounds good. Here's a common one. I know Gary has a lot of trouble with this one. Tips for dealing with cramps during training.
Yeah, that's especially now in the humidity, as we were just talking about before we went on the air. People, often underhydrate, or if they do hydrate, they just hydrate, I'd say, with pure water, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just drinking regular water. But one way you could increase the absorption of that water is to add a little minerals to it. So like something as simple as sea salt. Put a few pinches of sea salt in your water, and it'll change things. Sea salt is very high in mineral content, very naturally, and it's cheap. It's like probably the cheapest form of an electrolyte drink you'll find, and it does wonders for people. If you have a gallon of water, like a lot of guys carry around, I've seen like a quarter teaspoon has been about right for people, and that just helps you absorb the water. Some people on the other end, they don't drink any water, barely.
Yeah.
So make sure the water you do drink, you absorb. And you can, there is some electrolyte tabs out there and things like that, like Noon. I think one's called Noon. That one's not too bad. But always start with the basics. If something as simple as sea salt in your water makes a difference and why it's cheap and why you have to go any further, keep it simple. And just sip on it. Make a conscious effort to drink water. It doesn't have to be like a cup an hour or whatever. Just small sips throughout the day, and just try to keep yourself as hydrated as you can when you're training too. Keep it going just nice and steady throughout the training session. You should be all right. If you find yourself getting to that point where you're going to cramp, then back off a little bit, put some water in you. But I think sea salt is probably one of the best things I've seen. Going back to what we were talking about with people cutting weight and all that stuff, athletes are notorious for cutting sodium for some reason because they think it helps them retain water and stuff. And when you don't use sodium, you're going to cramp real fast.
Yeah, that does make sense. I've never done the sea salt in water. At the levels you're talking about, can you taste it, or does it change the way the water tastes a little bit?
No. If you do the quarter teaspoon in a gallon, it doesn't taste much different. If you do it like enough, say you have just like a standard water bottle, and you put a pinch in there, you might, but you could. That's up to you. Some people don't mind the taste of it. Some people, they don't want to know it's there, so they'll go even less of a concentration. But the key is just to try to absorb that water. People you can just slam water all day, but if you're not absorbing it, it's like a food, right? So
yeah,
little minerals in there. Like spring water, for example, it's always like high in mineral content. So they say like it helps you absorb it. You can make your own mineral water, so to speak, with adding things like sea salt.
Okay, on to the next question. What should I eat before a competition?
For your competition, the number one rule is don't change anything. So if you've been eating a certain way before leading up to the tournament, keep it. You don't want to change anything for a couple reasons. One is, nerves and stress of the competition can do some funky things to people's digestion. You don't want to throw something new in there. So one is to keep it status quo. But if we backtrack this and you're looking to build like a routine, let's say 8-12 weeks out before your competition, again, I would start like the couple days before actually is when you would start eating some starch, getting some good glycogen stores going. If you're not trying to cut too much weight, you can start with something simple like white rice. So start building up. Maybe you eat a cup or two of white rice every night with dinner. Then the night before, same thing. So you at least have some stores in the morning, fats and protein, and then during competition, it's tricky. Some people can't stand the thought of eating or drinking anything in between matches or a tournament. Others have iron stomachs and don't care. So that's going to be individual. I wouldn't stick to anything too extreme as far as any of the macronutrients. So I wouldn't do super high fat stuff because that might mess with people's stomach. Super high sugars, you're going to get weird insulin spikes and a ton of like heavy proteins. Same thing. So if you need something to eat in between, you look at like the middle ground of that. So maybe you do something like like a Cliff Bar or something that's like got a little bit of everything, but it's not too heavy. It's not going to weigh you down. Some people like fruits or things like that. You don't want to like have a burger in between or something like that. But you do need something, especially we had some guys that went out to the Worlds, and it was pretty interesting. A couple purple belts, blue belts, and those divisions are so big. You're looking at like 100 guys, if I remember correctly, right around there for those divisions, like middleweights. So that is a whole different world. You're fighting 7-8 matches in one day. So you're gonna have to start playing around if you are like a high level competitor. That is going to be going into those deep waters, so to speak. Like, what's going to work for you? And you shouldn't wait to that competition day. Like, do it maybe. Let's say if more likely if you are in that situation, you have a competition team you train with, or those days you train really hard. Start playing around with stuff, because you're going to have to figure something out that is going to keep you recovered, or as much as you can between rounds, where you're not going to upset your stomach, but you're going to have enough in the gas tank to go. And by those later rounds, like, everybody's pretty good,
Yeah.
You just fought 6-7 minute rounds, like, you're pretty good. Now, those last couple matches, obviously skill is one, but it's going to be who's got the gas tank and who can recover. So, coconut water, BCAAs, there's things like that you can play around with.
Wow, it reminded me. I ran a marathon a few years ago, and I did some half marathons before that. But when I was training, I learned that you can't do the whole thing without eating something during the race. And you run out of energy. You actually need some intake, and that reminded me, like, you have a long day. You're having a ton of matches in a tournament. You're going to have to eat sometime in order to perform well. So that kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Next question on the list: how do I improve my flexibility?
People need to understand the difference between flexibility and mobility. So, to me, when someone says flexibility, I'm thinking the ability of like the length of a muscle. So, like my hamstrings are tight. Now, flexibility just because you have, let's say, you can touch your toes, or you can, do some sort of crazy, stretch or whatever, it doesn't mean you have good mobility. So I think mobility is a bigger bang for your buck. You want your joints to be able to move to a full range of motion with control or with stability. I think it is a better way to look at it. So what's stability? Stability is basically having strength through a full range of motion. So you want mobility in your joints as opposed to thinking about flexibility in your muscles. Now, people can argue like back and forth which system is better to do it, but you want your joints to be able to move in a full range of motion with strength when needed, right? So in jiu-jitsu, when someone's stacking you on top of your head, you want your lumbar and you want your spine to be able to bend, and you want your, or your neck to be mobile enough to kind of withstand some of it. So as far as that goes, a lot of, we were talking about earlier with the Maxwell stuff, like just, moving your joints through full ranges of motion, not really like doing static movements. So to use the old term, like dynamic movements, right? Like get your hips moving, get your joints, everything, your ankles, your wrists, your hands, your fingers, like just get your joints moving, shoulders, in as many ranges as possible with control. So where you'll see that is if you, let's say a bodyweight squat. You do bodyweight squat, and you'll look down, and you'll see your knee do some kind of funky wobble thing. So you have the flexibility, let's say, to get down there. maybe you have the mobility to get down there, but you don't have the strength or the stability in that motion. So that's where problems are going to happen. So I think using some sort of, joint mobility and then developing strength in that, Kerry Starr from the Supple Leopard, he's got a lot of great mobility exercises that take the joint through full range of motion or put it back where it should be. A lot of his stuff with the voodoo floss is great, and all it is really to bring motion to the joint. So I think a better way to look at the flexibility picture is to look at the movement of your joints instead of like individual muscles.
We all love jiu-jitsu, and one of our goals is to get better and to do certain things with jiu-jitsu, but to do it for a long time. And when you're speaking about the mobility, I think that really helps with doing this when we're old people. When I don't know how old people is, but when I'm 80 or 90, or if I make it that long, I want to still be able to get around and roll around a little bit, and mobility is a huge factor in that.
Yeah, there's two things that play a role. One is having strength. So, going back to that strength piece, you want to be, having movement or being flexible without strength is a big disservice because you have no strength in that range of motion. So if you get there or if someone puts you there, you don't have that strength to protect you. So you can be the most flexible, mobile person in the world, but without the strength in that position, it's going to do you no good. So one is, for the longevity piece we were talking about, is to have really, good muscle tissue, like to be strong. Now, strong is relative, right? You're not a powerlifter, but to have strength through movement, like to be strong while you're moving, I think is going to play a big role in longevity.
Well, great answer there. Next question on the list is they want to know your thoughts on training twice a day or multiple times per day.
Most of the high level competitors do it. I think it's a necessary evil, so to speak. I think it can be done in relatively safely for short periods of time. So if you look at the football model, football players practice twice a day.
Yeah.
But the missing piece is they only do that for a few short weeks during their training camp. And the other side of it is one practice is maybe a little bit lighter, and it's not every day. Of a week, usually Monday is kind of like a film walkthrough thing. Friday is usually similar, and then game Saturday, Sunday, or whatever, or rest. So they do it, but it's for a short period of time, and the intensity is varied. So if you're training competition intensity level twice a day, depending on your age, like you can get away with it for a short period of time. You shouldn't be doing that for years, even months maybe. But here and there, it's not too bad. If you have the ability to recover from it. So if you're working full time and you're trying to get 2 sessions in a day, or you're doing maybe like some people do like 2 classes back to back, and the next day you're just wiped, then there's really no point. You're better off doing 1 session really good every day as opposed to twice one day and then you don't come back for 4 days. So you can do it. You can do it for short periods of time. My advice would be to alter the intensities. So maybe do 1 hard session, 1 like lighter or drilling session, or 1 training session, 1 strength conditioning session. Just try not to do 2 hard sessions on the same day.
Sounds good, and I had never thought of that. That the football players, if training twice a day, year round, made them amazing, even more of an amazing athlete, they'd do it, but they're not doing that. Yeah. Next question on the list here: what muscle groups are generally used more for offense or for defense? So do they break down differently?
Yes and no. So looking at, like, let's say defensive submissions. Okay, so you're caught in an armbar, you're caught in chokes, maybe a little different. Let's say any kind of like arm attack, maybe some of the leg attacks too. Your joint is essentially at its end range.
Yeah.
Most of the submissions are done, where the joint is basically at an end range, so like fully lengthened. And obviously there's exceptions to it, but that's ultimately what it does. It gets the joint to a spot where it has a mechanical disadvantage, and it's hard to fight out of. So if you don't have, strength in those end ranges, you're obviously going to be at a little bit more disadvantage. Or if you don't have the ability to get to that end range, you're going to be forced to tap sooner than you would. The classic one is the shoulder example with the big guys that you just grab the Kimura and they tap because the pressure is so much on their shoulder. So you're going to stress your muscles, so to speak, in defending submissions at their end range, which is obviously the most, it's not an ideal situation. You're also, like, let's say you're defending guard passes or something like that. You might be doing a little more pushing than pulling. Or maybe you're trying to frame a little bit more. Offensive, a lot of, let's say, like chokes, things like that, are all pulling. Even like triangles, I guess, would be considered pulling with your legs. So it's looking at the yin yang of it, right? So you're attacking. So one, you're in control. That's a big piece of it too. Is you're the one that's dictating the pace. So you can react, or you can get your grips, or you can do whatever on your terms. When you're fighting out of a arm lock, it's really not up to you anymore. You're fighting for dear life with a limb that's extended fully out. So I don't think there's a big difference as far as like specific muscles, but I think it's the position of which your joints are in. When you're applying a submission, you're at the advantage. When you're in a submission, you're at the disadvantage, or you're at a mechanical disadvantage. You're not supposed to be strong in those positions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, can you get super strong with your arm fully extended out enough to like resist an armbar? Like, I don't want to say never, because there's always those people out there that will like, maybe get some super strong dude or whatever that can just like wiggle his way out, but you're not supposed to be strong in those positions. So as far as like a training program or anything like that, like you just want to make sure you do have the ability to get to that position from a safety standpoint, and you want to have a little bit of strength in there. So you hope, like, if you do get caught in something, you just have enough strength in that position to keep your joint intact while the person's applying the submission.
Yeah, and
most of the offensive stuff comes down to being in almost the shortened position, or like maybe mid-range, but also being able to isometrically contract or squeeze for a while. So you're going to do more like a triangle, right? You got to sit there. It's like some people just take longer to choke, so you're basically doing an isometric with your core, legs, pretty much everything, to be honest. So you'll get a little more. You have to use a little more holding strength, so to speak, using when you're trying to finish people.
Yeah, it's you said earlier that when you're in the submission, you're at the disadvantage. Your muscles aren't strong in those positions. That's the way it's designed. That's part of the beauty of jiu-jitsu. That's a good thing, I think, for if you're on the offense. Going to the next question: if somebody can only roll twice a week, what off the mat training would you recommend?
So it's all twice a week. If they have the option to do a few days a week of strength training, they can work up to. They could probably do 3 days a week without really doing too much damage if their lifestyle and all that stuff adds up. I would do, if they're, let's say, we'll look at a competitor. So if they're a competitor, the days they're not in the jiu-jitsu mat, or sorry, not on the jiu-jitsu mat. The other days, they're going to be doing very specific jiu-jitsu type, like circuits to mimic matches. So if let's say they're purple belt, 7-minute rounds, they'll do stuff in 7-minute blocks. Maybe 7 minutes Turkish get-ups. Maybe 7 minutes of sled pulling. Maybe, if they have like a training dummy or something, you do 7 minutes of guard passing drills. Like, just trying to mimic the jiu-jitsu movements for the same amount of time they would use if they're competing or they're leading up to a competition. If they're not a competitor or they're further away from a competition, then I would do 1 day focus on upper body movements, 1 day focus on lower body movements, relatively heavy, and then the third day could be a mix. So you're going to do like a speed or a conditioning type workout where you take sub-maximal weight, but you move it for either with a lot of speed or for a longer period of time.
Sounds like a plan, and it does depend on what your goals are. It's a tough thing to be a competitor, only being able to train twice a week on the mat. But people do it,
yeah.
and if you're smart about it when you're there and you do your off the mat training, it has been done.
Yeah, the big advice I can give to people that are looking at this from the outside that don't have a background, and they may look at a program and be like, "Oh, this is great." So for the question with what the guy should do in the off, his other days away from the mat, most training programs need to incorporate all the fundamental movement patterns. So, Dan John talks a lot about this and some of the other guys. And they might have a little variation of it here and there. But it all comes down to you have to push something, both horizontal, both vertical. You have to pull something. You have to squat. You have to hinge. You have to carry something heavy, like weighted carries, and some sort of, trunk or core work, so to speak. So as long as you have, like, something that addresses each of those elements, you're at least heading down a good road.
Cool.
If you look at a program, everything is pushing, and like, wait, I don't see any pulling. Then like, okay, maybe I should add some pulling. So you just need to be smart with it, and really look like, what am I missing from this program? Is this program addressing, one, what I need, and then two, is there a movement pattern that I'm not looking at?
Yeah, very smart way to train there. Here's one that I'm curious about. Does the training mask, that mask that you put over and restricts your breathing, does the training mask work?
Oh man, that's an interesting one too. Let's look at this from a few different perspectives.
Okay.
But the theory is it helps elevate, like, red blood cell count, or the theory of like training elevation, like Colorado, where the Olympic Training Center is, things like that. So first is the training mask. You probably shouldn't even touch it unless you have a really big base under your system. So unless you've been training for a while and doing a ton of strength conditioning, you just max everything else out.
Yeah.
To get you in shape, and that's like the last resort. As far as is my opinion, like, you need to like max everything else out, and then be like, okay, maybe I should have this, because one, not everybody has one, right? And two, you want to try to train as minimally as possible as far as equipment wise. Like, you don't need a training mask. Like, some people see it and they think, oh, I need this to get in better shape. You don't. What you need to do is max everything else out. And if you think that's something that's going to add a different variable, now then down the road, you can mess with it for that aspect of it. Like, people always say you should change your exercise routine or your training program frequently or whatever, right? Adding something like that would create another variable you could add in, but you shouldn't be doing that until you have basically capped out everything else. And the other thing is I don't know if what the studies are saying about the effects on the red blood cell count or the increased oxygen from the red blood cell count using the mask. I'm drawing a blank, but I thought one of the reasons the elevation stuff works for the athletes of the Olympic Training Center was the fact that they're sleeping in elevation as opposed to just training in the elevation.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could dig it up somewhere, but I remember I read so much stuff now. I do remember coming across something to that effect where it had more to do with the actual sleeping in elevation, which, because I know they do, some people do have like chambers, I guess, I don't know, that they sleep in basically, that's supposed to simulate I think Diego actually does that helps simulate that, oxygenate the same effects. So again, then you got to go buy this like chamber to sleep in, to be honest, like I think you can find a million ways to get tired, that are going to be way cheaper and probably more effective than wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I see some people have used them, and I don't. It's hard to tell if it's affecting them mentally or if they're the right person. Like you said, it's for the person who is already doing everything else. It's for the athletes you do see on TV that are like in extreme, shape, and they want to just go like make it a little bit harder or do something like that. But
yeah, you don't necessarily need it. Let's look at a conditioning example for jiu-jitsu. Let's say you're doing guard passing or something. Let's say you're doing like a knee slide pass.
Yeah.
Now, the goal of your drill is to get as fast as you can or get conditioned as well as you can in that pattern, right? So every rep you do needs to be as fast as you could possibly do it. So if you have something that's like, let's say, restricting your air, your speed, that you can't do it as fast, you're not getting the benefits like trying to sprint for a minute, right? You can't sprint for a minute. Most people will die after the first 20 seconds, right? You literally cannot sprint as fast as you can. You're going to run out of, So the point of a sprint is to move as fast as you can, right? The point of that drill is to move as fast as you can, not to get yourself, exhausted with it. It's to build that, speed in that each repetition is fast in your knee slide. So you're I guess it's kind of counterintuitive, right? You don't need it. You're not trying to get in really good shape. You're trying to drill, this position with timing, with speed, with precision. It's not to get yourself tired. So that's just my take on it. And I know some people they use them, they get results from them. I think it's just, you just got to look at where you're at and what you're doing. If you're just started jiu-jitsu and you got a lot of other stuff to worry about, maybe you're getting ready for the World Championships and you need to figure out a way to tax yourself a little bit more, then that could probably be an option to use. Yeah,
I've never used one, and I have no desire to get one. But being a firefighter, I've have the air pack on and have a mask on, and it's not supposed to be restrictive. But if you're working hard enough, you're pushing that thing to what it could give you, and it's uncomfortable not being able to get the air you want to get when you want it, and it might change things a little bit mentally, maybe, I don't know. But maybe they use it for mental to build mental strength. That's not a possibility too. But I don't know. Maybe I should try it sometime just to see what it's like. But I do think you're onto something about the sleeping and just being in that higher elevation all the time will help your body. We can't all have that, I guess. We don't all live there, so that's why they put the Olympic training camp in Colorado in Colorado Springs.
They have some of the wrestlers up in the Midwest. I think in Michigan, by Central Michigan. I think there's some of the Olympic Greco guys are up there.
Yeah. On to the next question. Do you have any advice or tips for helping you recover after your training?
important things. So first is to get some fluids back in you. So if you've had regardless of how hard the session was, you want to get some fluid back in you. You know, water with the sea salt's great. Some people like coconut water or whatever it is. Just try to get some fluid right away. And then do some type of decompression or just relaxing before you start rushing out of the gym. And just let your body chill, whether it's like most jiu-jitsu schools, I'm sure people kind of sit around and like talk a little bit after and just kind of, you know, BS a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, get on the ground, like, you know, you can lay flat, like in yoga, you could lay in your stomach, like just put your feet up, you know, just kind of let the blood flow and everything, just let your heart rate kind of slow. That might not be a bad time to do some mobility stuff. Just something to bring your body down a little bit. You know, we're very, jiu-jitsu is as relaxing as it is, it's also very stimulating, you know, like someone's trying to armbar you or whatever, you know, or choke you, like it's a gentle art, but it's also, you know, you leave pretty wired for the most part, you know. So giving yourself that opportunity to calm down will play a huge role in the recovery. You know, you're setting the stage, so to speak, and then get something in. Some people like whole food after. You know, they like to eat a regular meal. Some people like to drink something like a protein shake. I think it all depends on what you can handle. Definitely, if you are training, I will say this: if you are training, if it's a person that's training twice a day, you might want to go with the liquid meal, just because the absorption rate's a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I definitely would advise if you are, you know, training really hard multiple times a day. After that first session, you do need to get some sort of liquid nutrition in you. And then, you know, protein, carbs, as far as ratios go, you'll drive yourself crazy. You know, people, you know, the 4-to-1 ratio is one that's thrown around a lot, and it's awesome if you're the type of person that wants the exact number. But for 99% of the people, they just need a little bit of proteins, carbohydrates after, just enough to hold them over, you know, until they can eat again or get home or whatever it is. You don't have to drive yourself, you know, nuts over it. Just make sure you get some sort of protein, some sort of carbohydrates in. For the competitor, if you want to, you know, a couple recommendations would be like a whey isolate. It's pretty fast absorbing with some sort of carb powder. Like, I don't know if anybody ever uses waxy maize anymore. I think that's a little bit older. Any type of UCAN's another decent one they use. I think it's like a higher weight molecular starch where it just kind of absorbs a little bit better. Something like that. You know, you can find all kinds of carb powder. You can do coconut. You can do coconut water. You can do banana with it. Like, you know, just something to refuel yourself a little bit faster, so you can have enough. You can start the repair process for your next session.
Sounds good. One last question before we wrap up here. A little different question. What apps for your phone do you recommend that could help you with your strength and conditioning training?
There's some good ones out there now. I do like the HRV stuff, the heart rate variability apps. The only one I personally used was the BioForce from Joel Jameson. I think he was probably one of the original ones. I had it way back when you had to have a little card reader on top. So I've had that one for a while, and they just I know they have a Bluetooth version now that I'm using that is great. You know, so I do think that one's great. There's the Omega Wave now. Fitbit's got some stuff. If you're not the type of person that likes to track like the heart rate stuff, any type of like notepad or like Evernote kind of thing will be beneficial to help you keep notes on your training. So you can track your progress, you know, very well with something as simple as that. Just like putting your workouts in there every day, and then even putting your training in. You know, you track everything. Track your jiu-jitsu. Put how many minutes you was class, maybe how many rounds you did, something, and you can start to pick up patterns. The tracking is not just for not just something to do. It provides a tool to help guide your training. So if you start to see like what maybe your weights go down, or you're like, oh, I rolled 5 rounds today, felt kind of awful. You can look back, okay, what did I do the day before? You can kind of troubleshoot yourself. So you don't need to have like a fancy app or anything. Most phones have some sort of notes app on it. Something like that is great. If you are the type that wants, a lot of data and numbers, then I would go with some like a heart rate variability app, or I think Omega Wave is good. The BioForce is good. I know there's a bunch of other ones out there now.
I'm reminded my wife likes her app that she keeps track of her workouts in, and it seems like it's a motivating thing because she wants to put it in the workout she did every day, and so she's not going to miss a day because she doesn't want that to be blank. And then she has another. She has, and you can do that with Evernote's a great one for that. But she also has an app that she scans things that she eats, and just that little barcode, it knows what it is, and you put in how much you ate, and it's kind of a way that she keeps track of what she is eating or not eating or whatever. And I don't know, that might be something that I don't know what that's called, but
there's MyFitnessPal. I think does something similar to that, and that's a good tool you can use too. If you can kind of spot check yourself. You can track things for a few days and to see where if you're overeating, undereating, things like that. Those can definitely be helpful, and also the accountability factor that you're saying, like you put it in, it holds you accountable for it. You don't feel guilty if you don't.
Yeah, it goes back to saying your answer earlier. It's the strength and conditioning program that you're going to stick with and actually do is the best one for you.
Yeah, you can drive yourself. You can drive yourself crazy with all the stuff out there now. It's definitely a really cool time because there is so much information out there. It's just good information or bad information in the wrong hands is asking for disaster. We have really easy access to some very brilliant minds. Never before you could see. You could sign up for Kelly Starr's mobility thing and see Kelly showing you different mobility exercises, and you could you can go to Mark Bell, he's a really good powerlifter, and watch him explain how he does a deadlift. We have really cool tools, but people don't know how to use them, or people use them the wrong way. They're looking at how a powerlifter is training for jiu-jitsu, or they'll drive themselves crazy and have 17 different tracking apps, but they won't actually work out hard enough to make a difference. It doesn't matter what you're doing if your program isn't good. You can track it all you want.
Yeah, it's just like watching all the YouTube videos of jiu-jitsu. If you don't actually get in there and do them, they're not going to do you any good at all.
Yeah, and what speaking of the apps, one thing I do find interesting is some of the sleep tracker stuff. I think that is kind of a cool wave of technology coming in, just ways to check how well you're sleeping, whether it's through a questionnaire or through. I know the Omega Wave and Rest Wise, I believe, is the other one that they look at a couple factors, they ask you questions, and then it's either based off your phone or device or something, and it tries to track how long you were in each wave of sleep or each stage of sleep. I do think that'd be really interesting data to look at for jiu-jitsu guys, especially the guys that train really late at night, to see if you're having trouble, if your body is still wired or you're having trouble calming down, how it's affecting your sleep.
That would be interesting. You could compare it, the days you train versus the days you don't, how well you sleep that night. That is an interesting idea.
That's something that I've been I've heard it from some of the guys at the gym that, they have trouble settling down after training. If they train late at night, we have a class that starts at 8, so it's like 8 to 9:30. So, sometimes they have a hard time falling asleep after that. So that's something that I've been, talking with them about. Maybe we start looking at tracking their sleep and then seeing what different, supplement nutrition or different, like heavy, like some deep tissue, like foam rolling, to help calm the body down before they go to bed. Like just, there's all different ways you can head, but with that piece, you have a really, you have a better picture of where to go.
Yeah, that if you track it, you could figure out. Like we started off, it's individual, largely, fitness and your own goals and your body but same thing for sleep. You track it for a little while, figure out what works best for you, and then go with that program. It sounds like the apps and the smartphones might be a good tool to help keep you on with that and see what's good for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, Sam, talking with you about all this strength and conditioning, all these questions we've had in here. I think we got a lot of great answers out of you, and I really appreciate you being on here.
Thank you. It's fun.
We don't have a ton of guests come on twice, so really happy to get you back on your first episode. If somebody has missed that one, go back and hear that, and go back and listen to that one, and see why there was such a demand to get you back on the show. So thanks for being on again, Sam, and I look forward to talking with you in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope everybody gets something out of this, and then you guys are able to start applying it to your training.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.
I want to thank Sam Spiegelman for sitting with me for so long and going over all those questions and getting the information out there to everybody. One that hit home with me and Gary here was how to get rid of cramps. And, you're rolling for a long time, your muscles are going to cramp up.
And Byron will tell you it happens to me a lot. I will be on bottom side control. Somebody's got side control on me on the bottom, and I got my leg kicking out, and everybody's like, what's he trying to do, a jailbreak escape? No, I'm grabbing my toes and pulling my foot back to stop my cramp in my calf. So I've been, the advice, put a little bit of sea salt in your water. This interview took place a little while ago, a couple weeks back, and I've been doing that. Just a little pinch of sea salt in there. Oh, so you've been hiding this from me. Oh, I haven't told anybody. Haven't told anybody. And, I don't know I don't get a lot of cramping, but I do know, when you sweat, if a little gets in your mouth, it's salty. You're losing that salt as you work out and sweat. Let's replace a little bit. I'm putting basically a dash of salt in. I don't know if it's enough to matter. I can't taste it, but I think it helps. I'm doing it because I think it's a helpful thing. So maybe just mentally it's helping me, but it's got to be helping me. And when you think about, as you are told you're going to cut, I'm going to cut weight, you cut out salt because salt makes you hold water. So the salt helps you hold some water. It's obviously not drinking ocean water salt because that would dehydrate you, but a little bit of salt will help you hold some water in your system. So that was interesting, and Gary, I hope you start doing that, man. Yeah, I'm going to try it. I mean, can't hurt, and it's only going to help me. So. Yeah, Gary does these epic rolls that are 30 minutes long, and you get another guy another 30 minutes, and after about 9 of those, his legs start cramping up. So. Yeah, but when Byron's saying 30 minutes, he thinks he means 3 minutes. So this has been a fun episode supported by the listeners. A lot of questions sent in. If you want to send us a question, a comment, or just a what's up, guys, I'm happy to hear the podcast. The best way to do that is BjjBrick@gmail.com. And another way to do that is on our Facebook page. Send us a message on there, like a little instant message on Facebook, the BjjBrick Facebook page, and we like seeing those as well. 2 quality ways to get a hold of the gentleman at the BjjBrick podcast. Yep. Hey, and if you really want to get a hold of the 2 gentlemen at the BjjBrick podcast and have our picture all the time, you need a BjjBrick gi patch that has a picture of Byron and myself as I'm about ready to get smashed by a brick while I'm going for a microphone choke on Byron. That's the gi patch there. But if you go on to iTunes or Stitcher Radio, give us a review. Hopefully we earned a 5-star review. And make the review funny. We like the funny reviews. Definitely it'll help out the show with a review. And then send us an email either on Facebook and tell us that was you, or on bjjbrick@gmail.com. Tell us it was you. That way we know who it is, and that way we can send out the gi patch to you. And please, right now we can only send them for free in the United States. We just are poor podcasters, so we don't have the extra money. But definitely we'd love to see you support us by wearing our patch. And then secondly, we're right here in the great Midwest. So if you happen to be traveling through the Midwest, either for vacation, for work, you just got out of jail and you're in the Midwest, we're in Wichita, Kansas, the heart of the United States. Send us a message and we'd be happy to train with you.
Absolutely. And those ways, the email or the Facebook page, if we're able to fit in our schedule, we'll be happy to get on the mat with you and do a little bit of rolling.
Rolling.
You got to keep those mats rolling, man. Episode 100 is coming up. It's right around the corner, just a few weeks away. If you want to participate, episode 100 is going to be listeners contributing how BJJ has helped them. So, if you've lost weight, if it's given you confidence, if you have a story about how it's, affected you or anything like that, take your phone, put it on the little microphone mode where you could record a little voice memo, record an MP3 file, and email it to bjjbrick@gmail.com. In the subject line, put episode 100 or 100, and we'll be happy to use it. If you can't, or that's not an option to record your own MP3, let me know at our email address. Just title it episode 100, and I'll be happy to get a hold of you and record a little segment with you, about 5 minutes long. That's our goal, is to get a few of these, quite a few of these, and compile them and have a variety of benefit stories about jiu-jitsu, and it really be like a commercial for the benefits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So,
and there are a lot of benefits, but pretty cool. We definitely can't wait for that episode. It's kind of neat to episode 100, kind of a big deal. So we'd like to share it with our listeners.
Yes, absolutely, and happy to have our listeners join the show and learn a little more about who you are. That's going to be fun.
Definitely.
Gary, we are towards the end of the show. They've heard about the email list. They've heard about the email or the audiobook we have for sale. Now they want to know what you've been cooking up.
What have I been cooking up? Are you trying to say I'm a meth dealer, Byron?
No, man. I thought you might, making brownies or something special like that.
Oh, okay. Special brownies. So now I'm a pot dealer.
Oh, man. Moving to Colorado. Just one state away.
Well, Byron, you're my manager. What do I got cooking up?
Well, actually, you've been working hard on an audiobook. I know that's true. The title of it, Gary, it always seems like it's a surprise to you. I don't know why you forget the titles of your book and what they're about, but here we go. The title of your audiobook is going to be called Stains, dealing with the real and psychological effects of losing hundreds of food fights. It's a different kind of fight this time, Gary, but you've evidently been in and lost hundreds of food fights.
But the cool thing, what I've got going for me is we're talking about food fights, but we're really talking about the stains. The good thing about jiu-jitsu is I deal with stains all the time. Blood stains on the gi, brown stains when you get choked unconscious. So I know how to take care of that. I mean, so I spent my younger years in food fights, which then I have translated the stain removal process over to jiu-jitsu. I will tell you this, my friends. One word. OxyClean.
The power of oxygen in your hands.
That's all you need to know. And we'll put a link to OxyClean on our site.
Oxygen is great, man. I'm breathing it right now. And if it can clean my clothes, that's great too.
Yes.
But Gary, what is the best food for long-range food fights?
I kind of like carrots. The way they're aerodynamically, you can throw it like a football. You got to get the spiral on it, but it'll work.
Wow, I never thought about it. That you got to, you need to have goggles on if people are throwing carrots at you, I suppose. But
yeah, I've actually seen people speared through their heart. It's happened before, my friends.
What grade was that in?
Well, 3rd.
Oh man,
yeah. That's
when the kids get a little bit stronger to where they can throw harder.
Well, actually, they cheated and they made a titanium carrot. That was the problem.
I stabbed a guy with a trident. What's that movie from? What's that quote from? You don't know?
I didn't see that one.
No, that was Anchorman.
Oh,
So that's Gary's audiobook is coming up here any week, anytime, right? What do you think, Gary? A few days away?
yeah, I'd say no more than 4 or 5 years.
Okay, good. He's working hard out there, and it's been fun. We've mentioned before, we've just done 3 episodes back to back as far as Gary and I's part, and we've maybe got a little silly. I definitely got a little worked up. I'm glad I didn't get all fired up about the article on the first episode. I probably would have taken that over.
Yeah,
for
we wouldn't have made it.
the next ones, but it's okay to get fired up and passionate. I get passionate about something sometimes. So.
Yeah, it's a sport we're passionate about. But as always, we really appreciate you listening. Thank you so much.
And stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower. And as a reminder, drillers make killers.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Hey, speaking of going back in time, actually this has nothing to do with going back in time. But
it's amazing. Watch how OxyClean unleashes the power of oxygen, making tough stains disappear like magic without fading or bleeding the colors. It's the stain remover for the things that you love. Add a scoop of OxyClean to every load of laundry. It'll boost the stain removing power of your detergent. Don't just clean it, OxyClean it. 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 OxyClean